Welcome to our deep dive into the Crescent Hotel.
Ooh.
Have you ever imagined yourself in the Ozark Mountains,
Oh, yeah.
surrounded by gorgeous scenery? You
Mhm.
check into a luxurious Victorian hotel?
Yeah,
It sounds like the perfect escape, right?
it does.
But what if this hotel had a reputation for being one of the most haunted places in America?
It's quite the paradox, isn't it? This
Oh.
gorgeous, historic hotel is a total paranormal hotspot.
You guys requested this deep dive and sent in some awesome source material.
Oh, yeah.
Historical accounts, guest stories, and paranormal investigations, so we're going to explore it all.
Cool.
The history, the hauntings, what makes the Crescent Hotel so unique?
It's key to remember that the history of the Crescent Hotel is really tied to its paranormal rep.
Right.
It's not like it's just a random hotel with ghosts. The past seems to, shape the present here.
Okay, so let's unpack that history. The Crescent Hotel was built in 1886, originally a lavish resort for the wealthy. It drew visitors from all over who wanted to experience the beauty of the Ozarks. But even in those early days, there were whispers of something darker lurking.
Right from the start, there was tragedy during construction, and a stonemason named Michael fell to his death, and that story seems to echo through the hotel's history.
Wow.
But the really dark turn came in the 1930s with the arrival of Norman Baker.
You're talking about the guy who claimed to have a miracle cure for cancer, right?
Exactly. Baker bought the hotel and turned it into a hospital, but his treatments were totally fake.
Oh, wow.
Many patients died under his care.
That's awful.
It's a chilling chapter in the hotel's history, and many think it really contributed to its haunted reputation. It's like the building absorbed all that suffering and despair.
It really makes you wonder about the connection between those intense human experiences and these reports of paranormal activity. What are your thoughts on that connection?
It's a question that has intrigued paranormal investigators for centuries. Some believe that traumatic events leave an energetic imprint on a location, a residue of emotion that sensitive people can sense or even interact with.
That's wild. And it makes me think about the specific areas within the hotel considered the most haunted, like
Yeah.
room 218, for example.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've read, this is the most haunted room in the entire hotel.
Yeah.
And it's believed to be haunted by Michael the stonemason who died during construction. It's like his story has come full circle.
Yeah.
Guests report all sorts of strange things in that room.
Ugh.
Shadowy figures, objects moving on their own, unexplained noises.
Yeah.
Pretty creepy stuff.
What I find interesting about room 218 and the Crescent Hotel in general is how consistent the reports are.
Yeah.
It's not just a couple of isolated incidents. Over the years, countless guests and staff members have reported similar experiences, often in the same exact locations.
That pattern definitely makes you think. You mentioned in your notes that you were particularly interested in the morgue.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, the morgue is obviously a chilling reminder of the Baker era. This is where the bodies of his deceased patients were kept. To this day, visitors describe hearing voices, seeing orbs of light, and feeling sudden chills in the morgue.
It's hard not to feel a shiver just thinking about it.
Right.
Some paranormal investigators think morgues hold a higher concentration of spiritual energy because of all the death and intense emotions around it. What do you think?
It's a compelling theory. Others speculate that the spirits of those who died at the hotel, especially during Baker's time, might be drawn to the morgue because it was a familiar place from their final days.
Okay, so we've got room 218 and the morgue, but there are other hotspots too, right?
Absolutely. There's the dining room where staff often see a Victorian-era gentleman sitting at a table, but he vanishes when anyone approaches.
Really?
And then there's Theodora's room, where guests have described meeting a woman who calls herself Theodora, but then she disappears without a trace.
Those vanishing apparitions are especially intriguing. It's like these figures are echoes of the past, replaying moments from their lives within the hotel's walls. But I think what's really interesting is that the Crescent Hotel doesn't shy away from its haunted reputation. They actually lean into it with their nightly ghost tours.
It's fascinating that the Crescent Hotel is so successful, it seems like. For many people, the thrill of the unknown makes the experience even better. There's something alluring about enjoying a fancy meal while potentially sharing the room with a ghost. What do you think? Does that appeal to you?
I have to admit there's a part of me that's intrigued. It's like a dare. Would I be brave enough to spend a night there knowing all these stories? These tours take guests through dimly lit corridors, including a visit to the morgue, and they share all the chilling tales of the hotel's past.
Right.
Some people even bring cameras and audio recorders hoping to capture evidence of the paranormal.
The ghost tours tap into our fascination with the unknown. They give people a structured and maybe slightly safer way to explore these ideas and maybe experience something out of the ordinary.
And speaking of exploring the unknown, the Crescent Hotel has been featured on several paranormal TV shows like Ghost Hunters, which captured some unexplained phenomena. They often record EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, which are sounds found on recordings that are thought to be the voices of spirits. Now, whether or not you believe those are genuine signs of the paranormal is up to you, but they definitely add to the intrigue.
Those shows play a big part in shaping public perception. They present a mix of investigation and entertainment, which makes people curious and sparks debate. It's important to remember that not everyone believes in ghosts.
That's true. Skeptics attribute these experiences to overactive imaginations, environmental factors like drafts or sounds, or even the power of suggestion.
Yeah, if you go looking for ghosts, you might just find them whether they're really there or not. But on the other hand, there are so many firsthand accounts, and the consistency of the experiences in the same locations over decades is hard to dismiss. It makes you wonder.
Where do you stand on all of this? Do you believe these stories are evidence of the paranormal, or is there a more rational explanation?
It's a personal journey. But regardless of whether you believe or not, there's no denying that the Crescent Hotel has a certain allure. It draws you in. It's not just about the ghosts, it's the whole package. The stunning Victorian architecture, the beautiful Ozark Mountains setting the rich history.
It all comes together to create a really unforgettable experience.
Right.
It's like stepping back in time, but with the added possibility of encountering something otherworldly.
It plays into our fascination with the past and the idea that remnants of those who came before us might still linger in certain places. Speaking of those firsthand encounters you mentioned in your notes that you're particularly interested in the stories surrounding Room 218, what about those accounts caught your attention?
Honestly, I think it's the sheer number of reports and the specific details people mention, like the shadowy figure by the window or the feeling of a cold presence. For example, there was a housekeeper cleaning room 218, and she felt an icy chill and turned to see a man standing by the window. What's interesting is that sensory detail. It wasn't just a visual sighting, it was a feeling of coldness, which suggests something more than just her imagination.
Yeah.
Then there are the stories of guests waking up to unseen hands tugging at their blankets.
Oh, wow.
Others describe phantom laughter echoing through the halls. Imagine that. You're trying to sleep, and suddenly you hear disembodied laughter coming from somewhere down the corridor.
It's enough to make even the biggest skeptic wonder if there's more to this world than we can see.
And it's not just individual experiences. There have been reports of objects moving on their own doors, opening and closing for no reason, and even apparitions showing up in photographs. Which brings us to the investigations, because those really ramp up the intrigue. The Crescent Hotel has been featured on several paranormal TV shows like Ghost Hunters, which captured some unexplained phenomena. They often capture intriguing evidence like strange thermal readings or EVPs. Now, whether or not you believe those are genuine signs of the paranormal is up to you, but they definitely add fuel to the fire. So let's take stock here for a moment. We've got a grand old hotel with a tragic past, a long list of consistent ghost sightings, and even some unexplained phenomena caught on camera. It's no wonder the Crescent Hotel is called America's most haunted hotel.
It's become iconic in the world of paranormal tourism. People come from all over to experience its unique blend of history, luxury, and the unknown.
But the Crescent Hotel's impact goes beyond ghost hunting. It's become a cultural symbol of our fascination with the unknown. It's been featured in books, documentaries, even inspired fictional stories. Why do you think this one hotel has captured the public imagination so powerfully?
The Crescent Hotel has become a symbol of our enduring fascination with the paranormal. It taps into that primal fear of the unknown, but also our curiosity about what might lie beyond our everyday reality. It makes you wonder, what is it about this specific place that makes it so haunted? Is it the tragic history, the deaths that occurred within its walls, or something else entirely? That's a question that has been debated for decades. Some believe that the hotel is built on a site with a pre-existing spiritual energy, while others think that the residual energy of the people who died there has somehow become imprinted on the building.
And then there's the theory that the renovations and disturbances to the hotel's structure might have inadvertently awakened dormant spirits.
It's a fascinating puzzle with no easy answers. But that's part of what makes the Crescent Hotel so compelling. It challenges us to consider the possibility of the unknown and to confront our own beliefs about what's possible.
So let's shift gears for a moment and talk about what it's actually like to visit the Crescent Hotel today. Because even if you're not a ghost hunter, it's still an incredible destination.
Absolutely. It's a beautifully preserved Victorian hotel with all the modern amenities you could want. They've got fine dining, a spa, stunning views of the Ozark Mountains.
It sounds like a perfect getaway, whether you believe in ghosts or not.
Mm.
But of course, if you are interested in the paranormal, the Crescent Hotel offers a whole range of experiences.
Exactly. You can book a room in one of the most haunted areas, like room 218, and see if you encounter anything unusual,
Hmm.
or take the nightly ghost tour, which takes you to all the infamous spots, including the morgue.
They even offer paranormal investigation workshops for those who want to learn more about ghost hunting techniques and equipment. So it's like a one-stop shop for all things paranormal. But here's a question. Knowing all this, would you approach a stay at the Crescent Hotel with excitement, trepidation, or maybe a mix of both? What emotions do you think would dominate your experience?
That's a great question. I think for me, it would be more about awe and curiosity than fear. The idea that you might be sharing space with remnants of the past, with people who lived and died within those walls, it's both humbling and thrilling.
I can see that. It's like stepping into a living history book, but with the added possibility of encountering something truly extraordinary.
Exactly. It's a chance to connect with the past in a way that's unlike anything else. But let's be honest, there's always a part of us that wonders, what if those stories are true? What if we really do encounter something unexplainable?
That's the allure of the unknown, isn't it? It's the potential for something beyond our comprehension.
And I think that's what makes the Crescent Hotel so unique. It's not just a haunted hotel. It's a place where history, mystery, and the human imagination collide. It's a place that challenges our perceptions and forces us to confront the limits of our own understanding.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The hotel's history, the most haunted spots, guest experiences, the paranormal investigations, even what it's like to visit today. But I think it's time to bring this deep dive to a close. What stands out to you most about the Crescent Hotel? What makes it different from other supposedly haunted places?
That's a great question. I think for me, it's the unique combination of luxury and paranormal activity. You can enjoy all the comforts of a modern hotel while also knowing that you're staying in a place with a rich and sometimes tragic history.
Hmm.
And the fact that it's so visually stunning with its Victorian architecture and the beautiful Ozark Mountains setting,
Yeah,
it all adds to the atmosphere.
I agree. The setting definitely plays a big part. And then there's the consistency of the reports. It's not just a few isolated incidents. It's a pattern of experiences that spans generations. That's something you don't find everywhere.
Exactly. It's that consistency that really sets the Crescent Hotel apart.
So I think it's time to leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question.
Mhm.
Would you dare to spend a night in the Crescent Hotel knowing its history and the stories that surround it?
It's a question worth pondering. Because even if you don't believe in ghosts, there's something undeniably captivating about the Crescent Hotel.
It's a place where history comes alive and where the line between the real and the unreal becomes beautifully blurred.
And who knows, you might just experience something that changes your perspective forever.
It's like a dare, isn't it? A challenge to your own skepticism and your comfort zone.
And even if you decide not to book a room, there's always the option of a virtual visit. There's so much information available online, from historical accounts to guest stories to photos and videos from paranormal investigations.
That's a good point. You could do your own research and form your own conclusions. And who knows, maybe this deep dive has piqued your curiosity enough to plan a trip to the Ozarks someday.
I think what makes the Crescent Hotel so fascinating is that it's more than just a haunted location. It's a place where history and mystery intertwine, where beauty and tragedy coexist. It's a reminder that the past is never truly gone, and that there are still stories waiting to be discovered if we're brave enough to listen.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Crescent Hotel. What a journey it's been. We've explored its history, the hauntings, the guest experiences, the investigations, and even its impact on popular culture.
It's been a fascinating exploration, and I hope we've given you, our listener, a new appreciation for this truly unique and captivating place.
We've only scratched the surface, though. There's so much more to discover about the Crescent Hotel, and I encourage you to continue exploring if your curiosity is piqued. Read those guest accounts, watch those paranormal investigations, maybe even plan a visit someday.
Because who knows what secrets the Crescent Hotel still holds waiting to be uncovered. Perhaps you'll be the one to shed new light on its mysteries.
And until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind to the wonders and mysteries of the world around us.
Absolutely. It really does make you think you know what happens to a place after something so intense.
Right. It's like the building's a witness holding on to those memories.
Yeah.
So what happened to the Crescent Hotel after Norman Baker was shut down in the 1940s?
Well, after Baker was gone, the Crescent Hotel went through a rough patch. It was abandoned for a while, then there were some attempts to fix it up. But it wasn't until the late 20th century that it was fully restored to its former glory.
Interesting. So it was empty for quite a while. Do we know what kind of shape it was in during those years?
From what I've read, it was in pretty bad shape, neglected, deteriorating. Some people think that being abandoned actually made the paranormal activity stronger.
Huh.
The idea is that when a place is left to rot, it's like a vacuum that lets other energies in.
So the hotel became even more open to those unseen forces. Then, as you said, people tried to renovate and restore the Crescent Hotel. Did that affect the paranormal activity?
Many believe that renovations can stir up paranormal activity. It's like messing with the building's energy wakes up dormant spirits.
That's a fascinating point about renovations and paranormal activity. I hadn't thought about that.
It's something that's often talked about in paranormal circles. Some investigators believe that any kind of physical changes to a structure can disrupt the spiritual energy there, maybe even releasing or attracting spirits that were hidden before.
So you're saying that like hammering and tearing down walls could be unsettling to the spirit world?
It's a creepy thought, isn't it? There are so many stories about hauntings getting worse after renovations or construction. It's like those spirits are being woken up.
It makes you wonder if there should be some kind of way to deal with potential spiritual disturbances during renovations, especially in places like the Crescent Hotel with so much history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would it be respectful to like have a spiritual cleansing or something before starting a big renovation?
That's a really interesting idea, and it shows that people are becoming more aware of how our actions can impact the unseen world.
Yeah.
There are actually people who specialize in things like that, performing blessings, clearings, even talking to spirits to try and make sure things go smoothly during those times of change.
That sounds like a fascinating field, this whole idea of where the physical and spiritual worlds meet. But let's get back to the Crescent Hotel and the question everyone wants to know. Are the hauntings real?
The million-dollar question, right? There's no easy answer. It depends on what you believe. There will always be skeptics who say it's just overactive imaginations, environmental things like drafts or weird noises, or even the power of suggestion.
That's one theory. But even some skeptics might say those explanations can't cover everything. For instance, what about the apparitions that have been caught on camera, or the EVPs that have been recorded? Those are harder to dismiss as just tricks of the mind.
You've got a good point.
Yeah.
Those kinds of evidence are definitely harder to explain away, and it's those unexplained things that keep people coming back year after year hoping to see something extraordinary.
It's the mystery, right? That wanting to understand what's beyond what we normally see. Do you think it's possible that some people are just more sensitive to these energies or spirits than others? Like they have a sixth sense?
It's definitely possible. Some people seem to just have a knack for sensing or feeling things that others don't. Whether you call it intuition, psychic ability, or a sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, there's definitely something going on with those people who constantly have these experiences.
It reminds me of all those stories about people who say they suddenly became aware of their own intuitive abilities after visiting a place like the Crescent Hotel. It's like these places act as a trigger that opens up those dormant senses. But even if we can't definitively prove or disprove ghosts, there's no denying their impact on our imaginations and culture.
Absolutely. Ghost stories have been around forever. They're everywhere and in every time period. They tap into some of our deepest fears and fascinations, our curiosity about what happens after we die, and the possibility of something more to this world than what we can see or touch.
I think that's what makes a place like the Crescent Hotel so captivating. It's a real living, breathing example of the power of these stories. It's not just a hotel. It's a collection of human experiences, both good and bad, that echo through time.
And it's those echoes that we're drawn to. They make us want to listen, to learn to experience it for ourselves.
Okay, so let's talk about what it's like to experience the Crescent Hotel today. It's not all about ghost hunting, right? There's more to it than that.
Oh, for sure. The Crescent Hotel is a destination all on its own. It's a beautifully restored Victorian hotel with everything you'd expect: fine dining, a spa, gorgeous views of the Ozark Mountains.
I have to admit, even if I didn't care about the ghosts, I'd still want to go, just for the history and the architecture. It's like stepping back in time.
It really is. You can practically feel the history coming from the walls, the stories whispering in the hallways. But of course, for those who are interested in the paranormal, the Crescent Hotel has a lot to offer.
You can book a room in one of the really haunted areas like room 218. Can you imagine spending the night there knowing all the stories?
Why no, right?
Or you can go on one of the ghost tours they have every night. They take you to all the famous spots like the morgue and tell you the creepy stories that are part of the hotel's legend. They even have workshops for people who want to learn about ghost hunting techniques and equipment.
Wow.
Sounds like they've fully embraced being America's most haunted hotel.
Yeah.
But it's not just about being famous or the ghost stories, is it? There's something deeper here. What do you think it is about the Crescent Hotel that keeps fascinating people, even those who don't believe in ghosts?
I think it's how history, mystery, and human experience all come together at the Crescent Hotel. It's a place where the past feels real, where the line between what we can and can't see gets blurry. It reminds us that there are still mysteries in the world, things we may never fully understand, and that's both humbling and exciting.
It's a place that makes us think about what we believe and maybe even reconsider what we think we know about the world. Okay, let's pretend our listeners planning a trip to the Ozarks. What advice would you give them about visiting the Crescent Hotel? Should they go with an open mind, be skeptical, or be ready for an adventure?
That's a good question. I think the best way to approach anything, especially when it comes to the unknown, is with curiosity, respect, and being able to tell what's real. Be
Hmm,
open to what might happen, but also be aware of your own biases. And most importantly, be respectful of the history and energy of the place.
that's great advice. It's about finding that sweet spot between being open to the mystery and keeping things in perspective.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, if you were going to stay at the Crescent Hotel knowing everything we've talked about, would you be excited, nervous, or a mix of both?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It would definitely be a mix. I'd be excited to experience a place with so much history and paranormal activity, but also a little nervous and maybe even a little scared. You just never know what might happen at the Crescent Hotel.
That's what makes it so cool, right? It's a step into the unknown. And you might experience something that changes how you see things forever.
Absolutely. Speaking of experiences, I think it's time we hear about some of those firsthand accounts that you found so interesting.
Yes, let's bring those stories to life and really get into the world of the Crescent Hotel. All right, let's get into some of those guest stories.
Yeah.
You mentioned one that stood out to you in your notes.
Oh, yeah.
Something about a guest waking up in the night.
This one's pretty creepy. A guest in room 218 said they woke up in the middle of the night and felt someone sitting on their bed.
Oh, no.
They were too scared to open their eyes, but they could feel the weight, like someone was really there. Then when they finally looked, there was nothing there.
That would freak me out.
Hmm.
It's interesting you bring that one up because it connects to what we were talking about before
Uh-huh.
about how some people might be more sensitive to paranormal things.
Right. We were talking about that sixth sense idea.
Yeah.
Maybe that guest in room 218 was just really sensitive to whatever's in that room.
Makes you wonder if some people are like a conduit or something, picking up on those spiritual vibes. Do you think there's any science behind that?
There's actually a whole area of research looking into the connection between our minds and what we see as paranormal stuff. Some scientists believe that some people might have a more sensitive nervous system, so they're more aware of subtle changes in their environment that could be connected to hauntings.
So it might not be totally supernatural, but just a heightened awareness of natural things we don't fully get yet.
Mm.
But let's get back to those guest stories.
Right.
There was another one that caught my eye. It was about a kid, right?
Yes, this one's really interesting because it involves a kid who didn't know anything about the hotel's reputation. This family was staying at the Crescent, and their little girl kept talking about a nice lady in a white dress who played with her in their room. The parents thought it was just an imaginary friend until they saw an old photo of a woman who used to live in the hotel wearing a white dress, just like the little girl described.
That gives me chills.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about whether kids are just more open to these things, less skeptical about what's possible.
Hmm.
Do you think there's any truth to that?
A lot of paranormal investigators believe that's true. Kids haven't built up the same walls that adults have. They're more open to the world without judging or assuming.
Right.
So some people believe that makes them more open to spiritual energy or beings.
It's like they're still tuned into those frequencies that we've learned to block out. It reminds me of all those stories about imaginary friends that turn out to be something we can't really explain.
Yeah.
It makes you realize there's so much we still don't know about the world, about consciousness, about what's real and what's not. And maybe places like the Crescent Hotel with all their history and energy give us a peek into those hidden parts of reality.
It's like a doorway to another world that's just out of reach. But we can sometimes catch glimpses of it, especially in places where the line between those worlds is thin.
Yeah, and that's what makes the Crescent Hotel so fascinating. It makes you question things, want to learn more and explore what's possible.
Absolutely.
It reminds us that there's still so much mystery and wonder out there. And sometimes the most amazing things are the ones we just can't explain. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Crescent Hotel, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay.
If you could spend a night at the Crescent Hotel knowing everything we've discussed, the history, the stories, the possibility of seeing something we don't understand, would you do it?
That's the question we all have to answer for ourselves. Are we brave enough to face what we don't know? Curious enough to explore the mysteries that are right there in front of us?
That's what's so cool about this. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, Whether you're a skeptic or someone who's always searching, the Crescent Hotel offers something really unique and unforgettable. It's a chance to step outside your comfort zone, challenge what you believe, and maybe even learn something new about yourself and the world.
Exactly. And who knows, you might just find that the best adventures are the ones that start with a step into the unknown.
And on that note, I think we've come to the end of our deep dive. We've explored the Crescent Hotel's history, heard chilling stories about its hauntings, and thought about what might be out there beyond what we know.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah, and I hope our listeners have a new appreciation for this amazing and captivating place. But we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover, more stories, to hear more mysteries, to think about. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that sense of wonder alive.
Absolutely. And until our next deep dive, stay curious.